Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be making this hot glue geode. Super fun. I think it's one of my favorite creations other than the Lego things. I really love it. Get a good look at it. I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions on how you can make your own. You can make it different colors. Personally, my favorite color is blue, so mine are always blue, but you can do it however you want. Let's get started. Okay. For today, you're going to need hot glue gun. You don't need the same version as mine. Mine's electric because I honestly got tired of stepping over the cord when I did anything. I would trip and always pull it out of the wall. It was more of a hazard for me than anyone else, so Dad bought me an electric one. It's my favorite. You're gonna need a razor, which you'll have to be very careful with. You don't want to cut yourself in any way. It hurts. You're gonna need some sort of jar, bowl. I used a cup for the last one. This will be how you're gonna create the thing that holds your geodes. So this back part I didn't actually paint, but you see how it's kind of like a weird shape? I put wax paper in a cup and then glued around it. That way it creates this bottom shape that you'll use to fill with the geode. Today I'm gonna be using a small little ceramic bowl, not ceramic, glass, whatever, just to explain it to you guys and make it a lot smaller than usual. But if it were me, I would use a cup because it's a lot easier to manage and hold and move around, and it's a lot less breakable. I've almost dropped this off the table twice. I keep hitting it and it like slides to the edge of the table and everyone gets really scared. You're also probably gonna want a cutting board. Mine is just because I do a lot of crafts, so I have like a rubber one that goes on the table. But you can use paper towels, cardboard, anything you want to put down just to protect your table. You're also going to need glue sticks. Take the wax paper out. I have a whole bin of glue sticks. I'm kind of a hoarder. I love different kinds of glue sticks, like different colors. I have all these little like glittery glue sticks and all these glow-in-the-dark ones too, which you can incorporate into your creation. This one has multiple glow-in-the-dark aspects. It has a lot of these ones that aren't quite clear are glow-in-the-dark, which looks really cool. But you'll need hot glue sticks. And last but not least, paper towels and paint, because you don't want to get paint everywhere. That's my problem always. I got these like little acrylic paint jars, but you can just use normal acrylic paints. You don't want to use watercolor, but you don't want the acrylic paints to be too dry either. You want them to be like a normal paint consistency. I don't know. Just like normal paint. You want to paint over them. Usually I use my fingers. Like I dip my finger in the paint and just like touch the top of the things I carved out just to give them like a little bit of a hue of color. So let's get started. Okay, first you're going to need, like I said earlier, your cup or bowl or however you want to do it. You're going to want to take your wax paper and somehow, some way, put it into the cup. Be right back. Okay. Got a rubber band. Hello, go on. It was a lot of work. Kind of see that. Put this off to the side for now. I'm letting my hot glue gun heat up while we do this. Light is still on. This will be kind of like the base. You can shape it differently. I'm just making like a normal shape. You know, like a little bowl. And because the sides are wrinkled, that is completely fine. Like if you see on this one, the sides are also super wrinkly, but it gives a lot of depth to it because no stone is going to be perfectly round. There's always going to be some flaws or imperfections. Something funny. So you can shape it to how you want it. I want it to be wrinkly, some different shapes. So you really have contrast and I can do different things. This, I'm going to have to wait for the hot glue gun to heat up. Then I'm going to glue around the edges. And you don't want too thick of a layer, but not too thin either. You don't want it to be impossible to pick up or get out or glue anything onto, but you don't want to waste a ton of glue doing this. You're going to want to make it thickest in the middle and thinnest on the rims. Not too thin though, like I said. But beside that, for now, we're going to let that heat up while I talk about technique for cutting your glue sticks. So instead of just putting these straight into the hot glue gun, you're actually going to want to cut them down to make the little crystals that will go in. So you'll take your razor and make sure you're always cutting away from your body. You don't want to ever cut towards yourself. It's not safe. And basically, I'm just going to cut these down to not really a point, but something like a point. See how I kind of made like a weird shape, right? Gonna cut that off. And look, I have one crystal. Set that aside. You're going to want to do that a good amount of times. And that's kind of your technique. And also, on the side note, you don't want to throw away these scraps because you can rip them or cut them up. And I actually already did that from previous projects. You can rip them, cut them up, and then paint over them. Or paint some of them, I guess, to make stuff that you can put around the outside. Whoops, that thing shot right out. If you see around the outside, on the very rim of my geode, there's like small little specks. They kind of make it look like ground up geode. I don't know how to describe it. That is actually just the extra from this that I cut into tiny pieces and painted over, which I have a cup of right here. So you're going to want to keep that extra. That's basically most of the process. You're going to want to make a ton of tiny crystals and a big pile of cut up little, I don't know what you call them, shards? Shards of glue. So yeah, it can be your choice whether you paint your shards and your crystals or you don't. I generally paint mine blue because, again, blue is my favorite color, and I just think it gives a really cool effect because the blue really contrasts with the brownish black background. It makes it really pretty. But like I said with the paint, I have these two little acrylic colored paints. They're really small. They're kind of old, and you can tell I've used them a lot. But I will like dip my finger in them and put my fingers together. And you want to put a little water in the paint. You don't want it to be like watery in any instance, but if it's ever dry, you don't want it to be dry because it'll turn out kind of cakey. Like in this little piece of shard, you can see how like cakey the crystal powder, the paint is, and it just doesn't look good. But what I'll do is I'll put it on my fingers and I'll literally take the crystal and just do this and get some of the paint on there just to make it like, if you see these crystals, how just the tips of them have paint, but it's still quite clear in the middle, which really makes it look like it's just like a hue of color. That's what you want to go for. Now I'm going to start filling my mold. It might take a lot of glue, surprisingly. Since my electric hot glue gun kind of cools down as you use it, I gotta keep letting it heat up. You don't want to start and stop too much because otherwise the mold will kind of look like you'll see the lines where you started and stopped. But I also have to let it heat up. Okay, now that this is dry, we're going to take it out of the wrapping. I would put whatever you used. I'm going to put, since it's glass, somewhere safe, but if you used a cup or any container of any sort, you should probably wash it afterwards. I just pull the paper away. I feel like it just makes the whole mold pop out. We have a pretty nice shape. See, it's kind of like a bowl. It's not huge and it's kind of flimsy, but since this is literally just a really small version of what I normally do, it'll be fine to do the job. We're not going to need the hot glue gun for a little bit, so I can move that to the side. There's any parts of it that like there was some like just fuzzy around the outside, you can take it off or shave it down. I just try and leave it because you're going to paint over it anyway in just a second. So you can get your paint out. I would put down some sort of mat, like I have paper towels here I'm going to put down. just so you don't get your table dirty in any way. Moving on. I'm gonna get out a paintbrush. And I just have some dark gray and black paint that I'm gonna mix up to make kind of like, not necessarily a charcoal color, but like a dark, kind of like blackish color. Rock color. What am I saying? I don't really know. And you don't want it too dark, otherwise it just kind of looks weird. But also, different consistencies and different backgrounds could look good with different colors. I know that this time I'm going to do all the crystals blue and kind of like a sea green that goes with the blue. That's what I do on most of my other rocks because it just looks really well together. How did I already paint my finger? I have a tendency to paint myself by accident. A lot. I do it a lot. But I'm gonna So in the next steps, what we're going to be doing is taking the hot glue sticks and cutting them down to be crystals. You're going to want to kind of cut like in triangles down towards the center and make like little crystals that you can just cut off the end, you know, and turn into this as an example. See that? I kind of cut and made a point, and they don't have to be perfect, but you want to make them kind of different. They can all be different shapes and sizes and like patterns on how you make them, which will make them all unique and make your rock look a lot more diverse in that sense. It kind of looks crazy on the back. I usually just don't paint the back at all, but if you want to, that's totally up to you. Like on this one I have here, the back's not painted at all. When you do it and you hold it up to the light, it is going to look like it has a bunch of spots that are clear. When you start putting crystals over it, you won't even notice. So don't be like stressed to fill in all the little gaps because it doesn't have to be perfect. I just try and get kind of the rims and around the top, just the part that you'll definitely see. But you're not going to see much of the back. Okay, we're going to let this dry, and in the next steps, I'm going to start cutting the crystals up. And usually, like, I'll make a little pile of the scraps I'd made the crystals out of, and I will take those then and cut them down and use my fingers and just kind of paint over them. But this time I'm not going to do that because I have, like I said earlier, this little cup of ones that is from a previous project, so I won't need to do that. But when you do it, I would suggest doing that because it gives a really cool effect to the rim, to the outside of your piece. Yeah, let's get started. this next part, we're going to assemble all of this together. This being our base, we're going to glue these on and put that around the outside. Very satisfying. I'm heating up my glue gun right now so I can start doing this part. Other than that, we're pretty done. You're going to want to take these individual things and just glue them on in different patterns. I usually try and put like one center one just to kind of ground it. Like there's one in the middle and they kind of all sprawl out from that. But you can do it however you want. Like on this one, there's kind of a lot in the middle and some crazy ones on the side. Like there's one right here that's literally just sticking straight out sideways. But it looks cool. It looks like it's like growing from the side. You're also going to save a little room around the edge for these little pieces. You don't need a ton of paint, you just need a really little dollop on the bottom. I'm going to move this to an easier side for me to do. I probably should have made these crystals a lot shorter, I'm being honest. So I painted some blue and I painted some that seafoam green color, and then I left some just blank because you want to have contrast, you know. Don't think I let the hot glue gun heat up enough. So I'm just starting to glue them down in a little pattern that I'm going to spread out. You don't want them too close together, but you don't also want big gaps in between. Just like the perfect consistency. This, usually I would make this more of like a cup shape, but it was, you know, it's a small one. I'm going to leave a tiny space right there. Then I'll put a little glue in. And then I'm going to sprinkle some of these right down there. It's okay if it doesn't like all come out because you can shake some out and put more in. I try and shake some out so I can like see what's actually attached so then I don't pick it up later and it be all not touched. Now I'm going to put the exact same technique, but literally just around the edges. Clean up the rest of that mess. Bring the cup over here. It's okay if it kind of sticks off the side a little bit or looks funky because it looks pretty cool in the end as a final project, finished product. String. Get off of me. Strings. Starting to kind of shape up. Looks really cool. And I didn't actually paint the back on this one, just like the other one. But if y'all wanted to paint the back, that's completely fine. Like, it doesn't affect anything. I just think it looks more cool when you can like actually prove that it's hot glue, because it really looks like it when you turn it over. And if you saw my first one, like you can kind of see some of the black edges. This one didn't quite turn out like that, but if you wanted to see some of the black edges, you can just make the rims thicker and push the stones further in so you can put the little crystals around the outside. But we're done. Let that dry for like 3 seconds. And I didn't even use most of my crystals, which means I'm gonna have some for later. Okay, keep those. And the rest of this, and we're done. Voila. Okay, we finished our crystals. It's very pretty. Like I said earlier, if you wanted to make it look a little bit more like this, I would first of all, I'd make it a bit bigger and make the rims a bit thicker, while also not putting quite as many little shards. Just like you can see around this, I still have a good amount of thicker rim right there. But that's just how I did it the first time. This is how we did it now. Looks great. And if y'all have any ways of doing it, or someone does it in a different color, I would absolutely love to see it. Thank you guys again for joining me on this little craft adventure. Looks really pretty. You did a really good job. Bye! That thing really works. An entirely paint job, because that looks really khaki. Hey, Dad? Dad? What? Did you take the razor blade? Burning myself.